And even though we're on a spiritual path, a spiritual journey, this wonderful magical practice just doesn't solve everything. And I don't think we should expect of it that it does. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Anna from Astralladytarot. Today I am finally refilming the Lost Seeker VR to Hanni from Fierce and Pretty. First of all, I want to say, Hanni, thank you for making that video, for opening up, for inspiring other people to open up. I've seen James's VR. It's just a beautiful video with an important message, I think. It means that even though we are on a spiritual path or go through that spiritual awakening, that's what you were talking about, we don't have it all figured out. And we should really, in a sense, I think, and I'm talking for myself, speaking for myself, I think it's a good idea to try to let go of that sense of we have to have it all figured out at one point, right? I think if we let go of that idea, then we can finally relax a little bit more into, well, this beautiful journey that we're on. So that's basically what I'm saying. I think that this thing that we call spiritual awakening is something that starts and never really stops, because it starts and then it continues. It just continues on, because at a certain point we shift into this explorer archetype, which I've made a video on, which was an Ask for VR to Lennon's video, or the seeker, as Hanni likes to call it. I think it's very similar or even the same. And I think even, we can compare this to learning tarot, which is how we all come together, why we all come together. We can have those moments of, okay, great, I can read the cards without using a guidebook now. Or, okay, great, I feel comfortable enough and to read for other people, and I want to read for other people. Those are milestones, those are milestones that I went through. But it's never like, okay, I'm done now. I did it. I learned it all. I learned all there is to know. There's nothing left for me to learn. You know what I mean? It's, at least I don't expect that to be the case ever. So I think it's the very same thing when it comes to any type of spiritual path, any type of spiritual awakening that we're talking about. I think it's something that starts and doesn't stop. And I think it's unfair and probably just plain wrong, actually, for us to expect some kind of end goal. You know what I mean? As in, I'm enlightened now. I certainly hope that this is just not the case. I wouldn't want this thing that I'm doing with the cards and with the spiritual practice. I don't think that would be any fun, would it? It's not like I'm enlightened now and spiritually awakened. I guess that those are possible, as in you feel more enlightened, or you feel that you are kind of out of that. I guess it's kind of a rush, or kind of like a stream of the spiritual awakening. I guess those are possible, but it's just like saying, okay, I'm a tarot reader now. I've studied, I put in the work, and I'm a tarot reader now. It's very similar, but there's no end to the spiritual awakening. At least that's what I think. I think there's probably no end to the spiritual awakening. And therefore, I also think that there is probably, it's safe to say also that there is no end to feeling at least a little bit lost when it comes to some stuff. As in, all the time. But I also like to think, but that may be personal, that when we feel lost, or when we say that we are lost, we only feel lost, and we are not truly lost. That's just what I like to think, because we don't know where this path leads. We feel lost, but it's not like we can really determine whether we are still on the path or we have strayed away from it. You know what I mean? And well, that's a point that I want to get into. But also, Hanni said, and I, support what she said, we are still, in fact, still searching. So I guess my definition of feeling lost is when we really stop searching or looking for meaning. That doesn't mean I don't ever feel lost. I definitely do. That's why I'm making this video, to kind of, share. Let's get away from this idea that we have to have it all figured out at some point, or that professional tarot readers or people with who bring out videos online about spiritual stuff have it all figured out. We definitely don't. But I think it's always a good idea to keep asking questions, and this, in a sense, also kind of proves it for me that we're not really lost, at least in my definition of that word. It may feel like we are, but we are still searching, we are still asking the questions. And so that's just what I think. And yeah, her video just inspired me to open up a little bit more about this. So I hope you like that. And then also probably the title of this video, why I call myself a positive person with nihilistic traits. So let's get into it. So for me, there are days where nothing makes sense. And as I said before, tarot readers, professional or not, whether you do it every day or not, doesn't make any difference. Tarot readers as well go through that. And I can speak for tarot readers, I think, because I consider myself one. I am one. I think we all go through similar stuff, these types of stuff from time to time. The less fun stuff. We go through that from time to time, or maybe even all the time, depending on, how you feel, where you are, but probably not never. So the reason that I said that I don't think, or I don't like to believe, is a better phrasing of that we are not truly lost and may only feel lost, is first of all because we have no idea where this path leads, right? So how do we know when we've strayed from it, basically? Because in my experience, usually we can't see past our own two feet. And by that I mean, if we take the metaphor of the path, or the idea of the path, we are walking on this path, right? And so it's not like we have a light to shine and to see where this path leads. I mean, some people use the tarot in that way. For me, I have to say I've also experimented with this a little bit. More videos coming up about that. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting, and also a bit of a mind. But it's like we are walking on this path, but we cannot see past our own 2 feet. And the important thing is just to keep walking, even though we can't see what is in front of us on this path. Another reason that makes me feel a little bit lost, but it's a different kind of lost, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it also kind of applies to what Hanni was explaining, is that I seem to somehow have offended some people just by being on a spiritual journey, just by being into all of this stuff, just by being into cards, just by saying I believe in this thing called the universe. And to me, that the universe as a thing might just be that living, breathing being, conscious being. You could say it's God, all of those, like, in my opinion, interesting ideas and more difficult questions. Apparently I have kind of like stepped on some toes. Honestly, I need a little bit of sip of water before. Honestly, I actually did go through a little bit of adult bullying. There's just no other way of saying it. That's what it was. It was adult bullying, just for me doing my thing. It's like, to my knowledge, your toes were nowhere near my path. And then you get angry or upset or triggered or whatever that I keep walking. It's like, it's not my problem that I'm stepping on your toes. Like, get your feet out the way. So uh, even though I don't see where this path is leading, I personally am really happy with that, because I also consider myself an explorer. I think it's very similar to what Hanni is saying, like a seeker. And yes, sometimes we may feel a little bit lost, or maybe sometimes we are lost. What do I know? But you know what I mean? It's just, even though I don't know where it leads, that's what I like about it. And I like to uh, explore. I'll link the video so you know what I'm talking about. So it's just not fair that these people basically stick their foot on my path and then blame me for walking. And funnily enough, even though I'm including it into this video, I realized that those reactions, they kind of convinced me to keep going. So there's a different kind of feeling lost, as I said. There's a different, it's more like there's a little bit of a disappointment there, I would say, aka lost feeling, because apparently it's not something that we can always easily open up about. I mean, I'm comfortable with it, so I do open up about it when people ask me, but it's not like I'm selling my ideas, you know what I mean? It's like, I have this channel now, I make these videos, and yes, it's kind of a monologue, but I always ask for your opinion. That's how we connect, and that's the kind of conversations that I love making, you know, that I love having. But I'm not like that with my friends or with anyone that I meet, you know what I mean? That would be really the opposite of fun. That would be really boring. I know that spirituality is personal, it's a personal thing, and it's about figuring it out for yourself. But it can sometimes, due to those moments, although those are outwards things that are happening, feel kind of like a lonely path. So I think I'm not the only one feeling that or touching upon that even in the video. But so anyway, spirituality is personal, first of all. And it's beautiful and it's interesting, and we get to these in-depth questions like, you know, what is the meaning of life and all of that. No one knows. I mean, but it's just a lot of fun to get into the depth, as I keep saying. But I know that it doesn't rub off from one person to the next. And honestly, I'm really okay with that. Even though, obviously, I am on this path and I realize some things. And I'm not saying that this is better or anything. I'm just saying that this is me comparing myself to my old self, that I feel now I understand things a little bit better, or I think about things a little bit better. At least I reflect about some things, you know. I think we just like to connect on different levels, actually, which actually is hard to do when it comes to all of this woo-woo stuff. And I don't really technically think that what I'm doing is woo-woo, is necessarily woo-woo. So just so you know, in case you didn't know what channel you were watching, we're talking about technical woo-woo here, whatever that may be. I don't think that's technically possible, but I don't think it's technically woo-woo, the things that I'm talking about, or no, necessarily woo-woo. You know what I mean. But of course, honestly, what I'm trying to say is it's working so well for me. Obviously, I would think that it would benefit a lot of people to go through their own personal spiritual awakening. You know, it could potentially solve a lot of problems. But I am not trying to convince you or anyone else. I don't talk about it unless I'm asked about it. Except in these videos, doing the unasked thing all the time. Nobody asked, but Anna thinks this and this. But it's just fun, and it's my online space, you know. And I guess people watch just because they want to. You know what I mean? So, but there's definitely another prejudice right there, which is kind of tricky. Bums me out a little bit. It's just that some people think that I'm somehow going to try to convert them or something because I'm on a spiritual path to something called, I don't know, what would we call it? Like Tarolicism, the Church of Tarology. But no, I'm not. I'm really, really not. I'm fine with you doing your thing, and I just want to do my thing. And this is not a question. I am not asking. I am doing my thing. And all I'm asking for you to do is to just keep your feet out the way. You know what I mean? I'm not the one who's tripping here. I think it's you. That was a very long first of all. But now it's time for the second of all. What is up with the light? Can you see the light? Second of all, it's a little bit more serious. Even though we experience moments of nihilistic moments, moments where nothing makes sense, nothing has meaning, I go through those. And again, this can very easily be unrelated to what's happening outside of us. This can just be something that's happening inside of us, you know? In spite of those moments, we still somehow sit down, pull the cards, consult the cards, we meditate, we ask the questions, and we expect some form of an answer back, or we get an even better question back, you know, as I like to say. So all of that is just, to me, and it's personal again, but to me it proves that we are not truly lost, and we have not truly lost the meaning. We are still searching for that meaning. So we still somehow expect meaning. And this contradiction has led me to, in kind of a half joke, describe myself as a positive person with nihilistic traits. Okay, so before we get into this more, because I have a lot more to say, let's take a little break. I think I'm gonna switch to orange juice. To be honest, the first time I filmed this, I was drinking a mimosa. Now the champagne is all gone. But yeah, orange juice still here. So get yourself a beverage too, or have a pee break. Do what you gotta do. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back after the break. I'm just flipping the record. It's time for the B-side. Okay, we're back. Drinking my orange juice. So, let me explain. I am a positive person with nihilistic traits. Positive because I like to believe, once again, that even though we feel like we've strayed from the path, or we're going in some form of a different direction, I don't know, that we are still on the path that we are supposed to be on. Basically, we can't know when we've strayed because we don't know where the path leads. And then nihilistic because it happens to me a lot that I think nothing matters. And this is just kind of like a tarot reader confession, I guess, but I think it's good to put that out there because otherwise it's unrealistic unrealistic standards, right? So I'm talking about those moments where I'm going to say we because I know that I'm not alone. It's those moments where we feel like everything has lost its meaning, where we kind of stop believing in anything and nothing makes sense and everything's just one big confusion ball, you know what I mean? And it takes a lot of strength actually to work for the faith, if you will. You know, like the complete trust. I kind of feel like the complete trust is something that I feel in my heart. That's where the positivity is and lives and grows and all that beautiful stuff. And then the other stuff is in the head. It's like that voice in the head, the negative voice in the head. Doesn't mean that it's reason. It means that it's kind of like a Nine of Swords moment. And you know when this happens, it's honestly, for me, I've noticed that most of the time when I feel this way, it's actually because of outside influences. I'm not talking about what people do necessarily. It's really, I've noticed that it's when I feel like I actually really don't have control over certain decisions. Certain decisions are made for us, and it really shouldn't be so. It's like society didn't get things right. You know what I mean? And I think that this is also part of what Hanni from Fierce and Pretty was saying in the part where she was reading her cards, and she said, I don't want to be an ant. It's very connected to that. For me, basically, it's when I think I've lost my ground. I think that that makes sense. And when this happens, that's when I feel like nothing makes sense. Everything just stops making sense. And like I said, these feelings may have, outside origins, but they impact my view on life a lot, apparently. And then I'm left thinking sometimes, like, what the hell am I doing all this work for then? You know what I mean? Because I am working on bettering overall, in a general sense. I'm working on personal growth, self-development. I'm working on working with the shadow, pushing myself to do better, and I am working on keeping this magical mindset. All of that work that I'm doing for myself, somehow then I sometimes feel can be so easily taken away by an outside force. And I wish it wasn't the case. But anyway, I think that it's normal to go through these types of things, to think these things and to feel these things. And it's basically just a part of the whole. It's basically like taking the good and the bad. And it's not necessarily all bad because we are smart people and we get something good out of it. It's just that control thing for me. Oh man. I'm aware that I'm not naming anything specifically. That's just a private thing. I hope, I know you'll respect that. So as I said, it can actually be perceived as something good because even in those moments, apparently we keep asking questions and we do dig deeper and work really hard. We still try to make sense of things. We still somehow have the energy to do that. And that's just wonderful. Even in the moments where we don't have the energy to do that, I have a feeling that we still come back to it. The tarot practice is going nowhere. The tarot is going nowhere. The whole magical thing is going nowhere. So it's just there. It's just there. And I think that that's something that we can trust. I think that's something that we can trust. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's important to share some of these difficulties as well. Next to the good stuff, obviously. They just go along with one another. They just go together, I think. It's just part of the whole. And I want to emphasize a little bit again that we don't have it all figured out. We don't know everything. And even though we're on a spiritual path, a spiritual journey, this wonderful magical practice just doesn't solve everything. And I don't think we should expect of it that it does. I think it's unfair to put it on such a pedestal and put it on such a high, you know what I mean? It's sometimes think things don't make sense. And I think it's okay to accept that. We all deal with earthly problems, not just because we have to, but actually because we want to. And also, to give an example that Hanni made, it's not like once you're on a spiritual path, you have to go through these steps in your life. You have to quit your job or don't do that. If it's not a good thing for you to do right now, maybe do it one day. But I don't know, just like it's not like if you don't quit your job immediately after your the start of your spiritual awakening, you go down on the scale of the enlightenment points. You know, it's that's not how it works. It has to make sense for you. So it's not like you have to quit your job. It's not like you have to go ahead and leave your home and live in a cabin in the woods, even though Hanni kind of did that. I'm just teasing, obviously, but seriously though, we should, I think, really get rid of the idea that we're supposed to have it all figured out at some point. It's just the reality of it. Okay, so I really liked that Hanni was using the cards to take us through this whole story and to basically organize her thoughts, is what she said. So I kind of want to do the same thing, because she asked, where is all of this going? What I see in it is that once we take the pressure off of something, we can finally kind of relax into it and enjoy the beauty of this spiritual awakening. You know, to me, honestly, that term, even though I've said it like 20 times, I guess, in this video, doesn't really sound all that good in my ears, but there's no other way of saying it. At least I don't know any other way of saying it, so let's just go with that. And I guess it's true enough to use that term. So I have my Triomphe Paradoxical. Oh, I have never showed you this, have I? I edged it in black. I edged it in a live, which I will link. But it's a black with a lot of different hues. So there's blue, there's purple, but there's even red. So, what does the path look like for me right now? What is there to learn? I'm just gonna pull one card. The Three of Coins. Well, there's definitely growth. There's life. I see creation, actually. So it's just about putting in the work, seeing what exactly are things worth to me, how much things are worth, in a sense of I have to keep going and pursuing that thing that I find interesting, that I feel holds value, that I feel other people would benefit off of as well, because it is about coming together. It is still a card for me that is about working together, about, you know, everybody knows something that you don't know. There's another cliche for you right there, but I still think it's true. So, masters coming together. And also I think it's beautiful because it does kind of promise the fruits that this tree that we're planting and, you know, tending to will bear the fruits, and then we can benefit off of that. So I think it's kind of a confirmation for me at this point, but also a very calming, I think, motivation to keep going and to continue this new perspective, this new idea that I have on what it is that I wish to do with, for instance, these videos, or what it is I wish to, yeah, just bring out into the world and share into the world. It's beautiful to see that there's a base and then there's this intertwining and coming together into something new as well. So maybe it's kind of saying, okay, well, diamond in the rough right there, but a diamond nonetheless. So that is what came up for me. I am satisfied with that. The three always to me means growth. It has the arrow pointing upwards, it means that it's even, yeah, I already said it, but now I'm also getting, it's really okay to have the earthly connections and at the same time to have the spiritual connections. So to really see that as a whole, to have the spiritual in the earthly realm as well, if you will. So I think that's it. I want to thank Hanni again for making this thoughtful video and inspiring video. I want to thank James, who has also made a VR. Maybe by the time this is posted, other people will have the VR. I think we're also using a hashtag, maybe not, I'm not sure. I would love to hear what you think of this, if you recognize this or what you recognize in what I'm saying, if you've been through that and how you dealt with it. And obviously, I'm also redirecting you to Hanni's video because that is the OG one. So yeah, thanks again so much for being here. If you like this, leave a like. If you're new here, let me know so I can properly welcome you to this online space, because there will be more rambles like these. Trust me. It confirmed that I have to do that. And I will also link a video in the screen that I think you'll like if you've enjoyed this one. So yeah, I'd say stay away from the notification bell. I really don't see why that thing is there. Also, I think that if you click that, you will go down a point on the enlightenment scale. So that's, the last thing that you want to do right now. Trust me. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.